Okay. Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 248, Passion and Belief. This is our Christmas vlog. Woo, 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 woo. Every year we do this. It's a wonderful moment of the year, and particularly this year, it's going to be a bit odd because like COVID, it's going to be a bit odd, but we still wanted to do the Christmas vlog in some form. And look, I would like to apologise on behalf of myself and my entire family that all the people that have watched these vlogs through 2020, you've had to put up with me pretty well the whole year. Yeah, and too much of me is indeed too much because I couldn't really bring anybody in because of COVID. But we decided that the Christmas vlog saga would continue. And as the wonderful person who I'm about to introduce to you just said, there's something fantastically appropriate after what we've been through that actually the Christmas vlog is delivered via Zoom. So in the Christmas vlog, we try to introduce somebody to you who is spectacular. Spectacular. And every year I deliver for you, dear vlog viewers. But this year, look, there are great candidates, we know that. There are great researchers, there are great people. This one I'm about to present to you, this is the Unicorn PhD vlog story. You want to see a unicorn? I want to see a unicorn. You're about to see a unicorn. This is an unbelievable story. If you need something to get you feeling excited about research, then wow, this is the vlog. Here we go. Dr. Narelle Hunter is a lecturer in biology at Flinders University. But let me tell you how she got here. Completing a Bachelor of Science majoring in animal, environmental and plant biology, completing an honours thesis the following year. Okay, so that's all going well, right? So that's good, right? Bachelor of Science, honours, great. Then 6 years later, completed a Bachelor of Secondary Education. This is all getting interesting. So that was an interesting movement. We'll come back to that in a second. Now, all of those qualifications so far were from Flinders University. And then in 2020, something astounding happened. Narelle Hunter became Dr. Narelle Hunter. Her PhD was confirmed yesterday. Now, besides being a remarkable researcher that we're going to talk about, she's also an absolutely stunning teacher, teaching what I think is the largest course on the Flinders University campus, Biology and Society. And she is such a fantastic teacher that she won a teaching award yesterday. This is unbelievable. So look, Narelle is an inspiration to me. She's a friend of mine. I'm not going to get upset, but I am going to get upset. It could be one of those crying vlogs. You know, the couple of vlogs I sort of cry my way through. This could be a crier on the way through. But I'm so excited to introduce this remarkable woman to you. And we're going to capture something about the passion of research and the belief that you can do it. And you can do it in tough times. Hell yeah. Happy Christmas, Narelle. Hi.
Hi, how are you? What an introduction.
Excited?
Oh, I'm just happy. I don't know that excited is the right word anymore. There was excitement, there was nervousness, anxiousness, but I'm just at peace. And I think I've just had the very best package of Christmas presents I could possibly have, because it's not just been one. That I don't think this year could actually be topped.
Just see, it's amazing you've said peace. Remember, you and I, through our conversations, I always said to you, when the students get through, I feel relief. I don't feel joy or happiness. And probably that's a great lesson for students, isn't it? Students feel at peace when it isn't over, and supervisors feel relieved. Isn't that a weird palette of emotion?
It was very strange. I didn't know what to expect, but I did shed a tear or two. And they were very happy tears. They were good, happy tears of pure joy.
Oh, isn't that remarkable? Well, look, let's get into this. Let's share this fabulousness, because I can feel the excitement of all our remarkable viewers today. But look, let's start with the usual question that I always ask students. So what was the PhD about? Now, for students, of course, every student has a fantastic PhD story to tell. What your PhD is about, wow, huge. Tell me about it.
Well, my PhD is not about me. My PhD is about my students. So as Tara mentioned, I was working as a lecturer already, and I noticed that my students were not learning writing very well. They were not delivering what we were asking for, and I really wanted to understand what was going on. So their use of language in the sciences was very limited. They couldn't explain ideas clearly, and I really wanted to understand what was going on. And I started off with a bit of a lens thinking, well, if we can clarify their language, we can link their research productivity with outcomes. We can connect them to industry, to employment, to all of these other areas, because they'll be able to communicate better.
Yes.
But where it went was so much more than that, so much more than that. So it really became about understanding how writing helps students to develop literacy within their own discipline and become part of that discipline. And that was the tool that really allowed them to communicate in different ways and get those links between other people.
And of course, disciplinary literacy became the thing.
The thing. And before my PhD, I didn't even know what that was. And I think you put together a vlog on disciplinary literacy, and my head was exploding. Oh my God, this is what it is. This is the name. So that was huge.
And I believe you have been using it randomly in a whole series of meetings that I've been hearing about, Narelle.
Yes, I have. I've been throwing those words out there and trying to get my colleagues to have a think about what it means and maybe, I don't know, embed it in some of our teaching.
That is phenomenal. Now, the second question I have of you, look, is an interesting one. And I'm fascinated to see how you work through this with me. And it's a question about gaps and gaps in one's educational career.
Which I have plenty.
Yes, now you do. And of course, this is me speaking not from an experiential base, because I sort of did the whole lot through bang, thanks for playing. I was one of those people. So I'm desperately interested in the students that have the gap. So you have a gap between the Bachelor of Science and the education qualification, and then a gap in the PhD. Talk to me about gaps.
Gaps were good. For me, gaps were good because I tried to think about why those gaps existed. And I think it came down to, I had a plan. When I left high school, I was going to be a vet. That didn't work out for a whole range of reasons. And I'm glad it didn't work out. But it meant that I was left without a direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have that focus of, I want to be this, of something to work towards. So I had to approach it quite differently. And the way that kind of came about meant that I finished something and then had to stop and think about, what do I want to do now? And what does that mean? Where can I go with this? What do I want to do with it? What opportunities are there? And that meant some of those gaps were huge, really, really huge. And then you throw in having kids.
Amazing. So the gap was helpful. Firstly, it allowed you to have a life and recalibrate education in relation to that life, and that's crucial. But it also allowed you to reflect on the nature of education and motivation and what it is going to do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And really make sure I knew what I wanted to do and why, because I really needed to understand what was I going to get out of this education. So what actually happened after honours and deciding to go into education, there's a whole other story that fits in there. But I discovered that love of teaching. And that love of teaching, suddenly I went, I think I know what I want to do. I know what I'm meant to do. And that began the track that I'm on now.
And look, it's so meaningful, because in times where, in 2020 has been a time that we've seen profound disrespect of teaching, teachers and expertise. And we have millions of exhausted teachers around the world who have stepped up to the plate, demonstrated remarkable expertise and resilience and robustness and all those words, but they have suffered to deliver outcomes for the planet. And I think we need to really acknowledge that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I live with one of them.
Yeah. And he lives with you.
Yes.
Which is appropriate considering the house and the mortgage and children and things, but that's great. It's a whole other thing. The next question comes from the gap, but this could be the most inspirational moment for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people around the world watching this. And this is about the PhD, that this was your, and I'll use the old cliche, your second bite at the cherry. So there's a lot of people out there, and these are silent stories where people have had a go and left. Yep. And some remarkable people who have had a go and left return. Now tell us about the return and the success this time, noting that what you're about to say could actually change people's lives.
And I hope it does. I hope it does. Because I don't view my first go at a PhD as a failure now. At the time, I absolutely did. I was devastated, but I knew it was the right thing to walk away, because it was in an area that I couldn't do justice. But I had promised myself that when my youngest son was starting school, I would give it another crack. So I'm surrounded by lots of support, and I had made it I was very vocal about it and said, I'm going to do this. It's going to be really tough, but I need to do this for me. So I plucked up the courage and started looking for new supervisors. But this time it was in an area that I decided, that I chose the project. I designed everything. It was very much led by me. The first time around, not so much. So the difference between the two projects is my approach. I'm a completely different person, even though I might not think it all the time. I'm a very different person. Wow. But it was the way I approached both projects. I approached my first PhD as a continuation of honours, because I wasn't ready to leave education yet. And I didn't want to go out into the big wide world and get a job yet. So to me, it was, I want to keep studying, and this was an option. It wasn't a project I was truly passionate about and ready to do. Wow. One clearly was.
Wow, and this one was. And, you know, for me, I've always said one of the great research questions I try and provoke students with is, what changed? You know, what changed? So that's a great way to sort of, what's going on with this research? Well, what's changed? And so from what I'm picking up from your answer so far is you changed.
Yeah, I didn't think I did, but I really, when I reflect on it, it's me. It is. When I reflect on it, it really is me that's changed.
And that reflexivity, it's funny, you know, the research, a lot of the research that's emerged from Europe has said the characteristic of the students that complete and the students that don't, the students that complete reflect on the nature of doing their PhD. Yeah. And you've just confirmed that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to think, to make this one successful, I had to really look back and think about what didn't work the first time. It was not my supervisor. I still have a great relationship with him and I work closely with him. He's a wonderful person and provided so much support, but he couldn't support me in the way I needed because the project and the research wasn't right for me and I wasn't ready. Wow. But when I started this time, I had everything ready to go. I knew what I was signing up for this time, and I knew much more about managing it and how I was going to do it.
Incredible story. And that will help people, because people watching this might actually realize in themselves that, right, this is my moment. I have changed. I know what I'm going into. I know what I want, and I'm going to do it. Now,
I'm no smarter. I want to make sure that's really clear. Is I was capable the entire time.
boom.
My brain has only changed in that I've learnt what not to do and applied it. I'm not more smart.
No, but you're more committed, more focused, and reflexive on what went right and what went wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's it. I wonder if that's just changed some people's lives. I can like feel pennies dropping around the world. And it's funny, Narelle Dolan, that you've said, it is about me and my change. My next question is about another thing that changed between those two PhD enrollments, and that is you accidentally fell on a bloke at some point and had some children. So can we talk a little bit about a PhD, a remarkable and supportive spouse, which I think is dead crucial, to be honest with you, and remarkable and supportive children, and how families are involved in a completion, because I do need to log with the wonderful people watching this that yours was an incredibly fast completion as well. So can you tell us about families in the PhD?
Absolutely. I have got an amazing family. My husband is a high school teacher, and we had to have very clear, open conversations. What is this going to look like? What's the commitment involved? What does that actually mean on a day-to-day basis? Will I have time to go do the grocery shopping? Will I have time to do the washing? Well, it turns out no. So he had to pick up some of those practical things when I couldn't. I made sure, so my kids are quite young, still in primary school. I made sure that there were times when I could still get to their sports and things like that, because it's important that they still have that connection. But there were other things I couldn't do. So those conversations, my kids are pretty smart. All kids are pretty smart.
Yeah.
I had those conversations with them and explained to them what was going on. And I set really clear boundaries and deadlines. So if I said I needed to work for this many hours, I stopped at the end of that, so that I could then spend time with them. But there were loads of sacrifices. And I think without them making those sacrifices, there's no way I would have been able to complete.
And Narelle, I'll ask you the question again. I have these theoretical ideas that I present that a lot come from the research, but about the PhD. And I often talk about, as you've heard me say, the importance of keeping the candidature as tight and as short as you can, not only for yourself and your mental health and sanity, but for your family, so that the family sacrifices are finite.
Yes.
Is that resonant with what's happened to you this year?
Absolutely. And I would set deadlines, really clear deadlines. And I think my favorite, there were two moments where those deadlines were really clear to our whole family. So I had said to my children, the most recent deadline really was my first draft, my first full draft. And remember, these kids basically can't remember a time where I wasn't doing my PhD. So for them, they're hearing me say, no, I can't, no, I can't, no, I can't. So I said, Easter, I'm going to have my first full draft, guys. And that means that on Easter weekend, I'm not doing any work. We're just hanging out all Easter weekend. And they kept asking me, are you done yet? It's not Easter yet. Are you done yet? It's not Easter yet. And when Easter came, they're like, it's Easter, are you done? And I had. I remember submitting to you and Jamie my first full draft and just sitting down with a glass of wine going, whew.
And it's funny, I remember the picture of that wine on Facebook. That was a very excited glass of wine, can I say?
It was. Oh, but those deadlines essentially happened the whole way through.
Yeah.
So, and we would have small family celebrations. So part of my, when I was writing my interventions, I would put together my interventions and I would have a deadline and a goal and say, by this time on the weekend, I'm going to have that one finished. And then we can go out for coffee and cake. So it might be something little, but it was that celebration. Here's one milestone and the next and the next.
And see, that was great for you. So it creates those micro moments of achievement that we always talk about, but also it was great for the family, that the family were involved in the completion. This has happened. And also, can I just say how great it is for your children to see you constructing a deadline, being honest and authentic with them about it, and achieving it in terms of their socialization for their life.
Absolutely. And we always are now talking about responsibility, taking ownership for your contribution to something and all those kinds of things. The conversations that it opens up are amazing.
Oh, that's incredible. And obviously the unicorn moment of the unicorn vlog this particular week we have to go to. And look, I did want an historical moment of this vlog. A lot of the vlogs move through space and time and can come in at any point and leave at any point when you feel like an intervention on a particular topic. But for the Christmas 2020 vlog, I did want a moment where I look at you and we have an historical moment here that we may look back on in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years when we think about 2020. And so, look, I will ask the COVID question. You produced a quick PhD with a family, with a huge job during a COVID year when people all around you said, oh, look, you can't do it. Or how about you just park the PhD for a while and focus on COVID and teaching? And you said no. That was one of the most empowering no's that I've ever heard a woman say. You went, no, I'm doing this. So can I ask just historically that you talk about COVID, 2020 and the PhD and finishing?
Absolutely. So COVID sucked. It really sucked. Thanks, COVID. But it gave me a huge opportunity to learn. So I've grabbed that with two hands and held on for dear life. It flipped my world upside down. Suddenly, my nice, manageable timeline was completely flipped. In the largest topic of the university, we had to go online and all of our teaching is practical. So we had to very, very quickly produce online content. I'm not an online specialist, so had to suddenly do loads of reading to figure out the best ways to produce material, then produce the material, then trial it, run it with students, design a whole bunch of other things around it, and then have the pressure of you need to keep doing this, and why don't you just, you've got plenty of time left, pause for a minute and do this extra work. And that was where I kind of firmly said, well, no, I actually need to get this through because I've got another deadline and that's semester 2.
Yeah.
And that's really tough. So if I think this is hard now, that's going to be just as hard, and I can't do that with a PhD as well. So I had to stick to my deadline. It meant we had my husband teaching from home, which he's a very practical teacher as well. So that was interesting. We had kids at home doing some schoolwork. And then me thrown in a mix, and I had to work 7 days a week, and I would structure and block all of my time, but essentially I compressed what I would have done normally in 5 days and tried to have a weekend. I just didn't have a weekend.
No.
So did loads of work every waking hour.
Yeah. And can I also say too, the other challenge is one of your two supervisors, a certain Professor Jamie Quinton, was also implementing COVID changes in physics, in first year physics. And you two had this remarkable, powerful dialogue once a week about that. And it was such a privilege to be a part of that. And of course, sadly, you know, your other supervisor was the Dean of Graduate Research, trying to manage 1,000 students working through this. So somehow it was almost like we were sort of in this war, really.
It was, and those meetings saved me, honestly. Those meetings gave me insight. I'm not in this alone. You know, it might feel when you're sitting at your computer desk, you're the only one doing this. But to meet with you and Jamie once a week, to see that everyone was in crazy And it was very grounding. We could talk about the kinds of things we were doing, give each other ideas, or even if we were just all out of ideas, just blah.
Look, I do remember a couple of those meetings where I think the three of us were we were so exhausted. I think just either just before or just after Easter, where the three of us sort of just looked at each other in the Zoom camera.
Yeah.
You live? Yeah, good.
Just.
Good. And I don't think we got beyond one syllable for a couple of meetings. Hi.
There was lots of coffee.
But it was lovely. As I say, it was just lovely for me watching, as someone who doesn't teach first years anymore, taught first years for 20 years, to see you and Jamie, I'm getting teary now, seeing you and Jamie managing first year, both of you in highly practical, first year biology, first year physics, and the pair of you were able to make that work and to see you do it together. And it was a lovely moment of interdisciplinary science too, because obviously all the science components, Chem hate the physicists and maths hate the computer scientists and everyone hates the biologists. And it was just lovely to have a proper interdisciplinary conversation that was so meaningful.
It was so supportive as well. And to have, just to be able to share what you're working through and the challenges that you've got is amazing. Just to be able to talk it through.
Yeah, and it all nested into the thesis as well. So it was just stunning. And that, of course, then leads to the very interesting and odd next question. And again, I don't know how you're going to answer this one, but it's about the examination. So you moved to examination. You had two of the greatest scholars in the world.
Phenomenal.
Examining your thesis, #no pressure. Were there any surprises about the examination process that hit you? Looking back right now, so people never know about examinations till they're in the middle of it and they're through it. Any tips for punters, anything that was surprising for you?
Yeah, I think most of it not surprising, because the OGR at Flinders is amazing. The OGR team are phenomenal. Their communication is wonderful. They're so streamlined that you know the process, so you know what to expect. But there was one thing that surprised me, and nobody could have really prepared me for this. As I was waiting for my results, I kind of knew they were coming soon as the timeline was ticking over. And the day that I happened to get the email that said, "Here are your results," I was shopping with my kids and I was stupidly scrolling on my email. Oh dear, I need to sit down for a moment. So I sat down in the middle of the shopping centre and read this email. And there's all of the examiner's feedback. And poor me's just gone, oh. And of course the feedback was phenomenal, but I'd been holding on to this anxiety that I'm not a highly anxious person. So I wasn't aware that that's what I was doing, but it all came flooding out. And there was this combination of, oh my gosh, was it good enough? Oh my gosh, it wasn't, but it was, oh my gosh, what does all this mean? And it took me probably a good day and a half to really digest everything and understand it properly.
Yeah.
And that day was tough. So don't do that in a shopping centre. Don't open your emails in a shopping centre.
Well, as someone who wrote the book Digital Hemlock, I'd say don't open your emails on your phone, but that's a whole other thing. Look, and that's interesting. And can I say, because just to clarify for colleagues on this call, right, that what we're dealing with is a double B. So we got a BB, minor correction. So in terms of the hierarchy or the majority of decisions, Narelle was absolutely near the top of what students can get, right? So this was phenomenal. And again, probably how I didn't prepare you properly is when outstanding examiners love a thesis, they love it to death. And if they read it properly and they're engaged in it and they're excited, they overshare their excitement. Right? And they go,
they read it properly and it was amazing. The feedback, oh my gosh, it was wonderful. And the more I read it, so initially after I got over the initial shock of, oh my gosh, as I kept reading and reading, there were more gems, just these beautiful gems. of comments that were just, oh, they were spectacular.
Oh, look, they are. Look, I'll tell a quick secret story from yesterday as well, because I'm your supervisor. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Professor Robert Saint, had to sign off your thesis as Dean yesterday. And he was reading it, and I was on the phone with him while he was reading it, and he went, "Geez, this is a good thesis. Gee, this is a good thesis, isn't it?" I went, "Yeah, it is. This is a great thesis, Rob." "No, this is great." So, it's wonderful for, I'm sure, Rob, because, Rob doesn't get a chance to work, and he loves the PhD students, and he doesn't get a chance to read the work as much as he would like. He had to in this case, and he absolutely adored it. So it is a great piece of work. But it is interesting how we as supervisors prepare students for the reports, that actually great reports aren't like we would mark an undergraduate assignment. So this is excellent. When you've got the best scholars in the world and they're excited, they will tell you about their excitement and the future work.
Yes, and the challenges that they can see and the challenges that they were thinking about as they're reading your work. And to me, as an initial read, I felt that was a criticism, but it wasn't. And it took a couple of reads to really understand that and take it in the way it was intended.
Yes. And we particularly see that in interdisciplinary, post-disciplinary theses, because we have to find examiners. No one examiner is going to cover the whole field. So particularly when we're organising examiners, we make sure the whole thesis is covered, but they're coming from different directions, which was the case with you particularly.
That was amazing.
They were terribly excited here, and they were asking very interesting questions about the others, like, "Oh, I'm terribly excited by this. Have you thought about this?" So I think that's a great tip for punters. That's brilliant. Now, my next question also involves the examination period and how one manages that examination period. Now, we bizarrely, during this COVID year, and I don't know whether we were sharing your wine with you when we made it, but during the examination period, we made a decision to write a refereed article together about COVID and higher education that we called Panic Learning, and the journal Fast Capitalism loved it, and the referee reports were unbelievable, and they were mad. But looking back on it now, I mean, it is madness, isn't it?
It is, and I loved that article so much. It's one of my favorite articles because it's so different. And when I look back to the other articles that I have done, they feel really dry compared to that. They're very scientific and very educational. But it was fun to write. So much fun to write.
Oh, and it was wild. It's a wild piece. I mean, this is like three people staggering out of a meth den. Let me just tell you what we've done. But in terms of doing an article while the thesis is under examination, I've done it a few times, but starting something new, so not nested in the thesis, and writing that cleanly, is that something, I mean, I've never thought about it, but is that something that you would recommend?
Definitely, because it took me out of focusing on, oh my gosh, when are my exam results coming in? So I didn't have to think about what was going on. Of course, it's always there in the back of your mind. I had a very, very busy semester planned anyway. So that was always going to be busy and keep me not thinking about it. But I think it's really important to have other projects like a completely different type of publication to keep you working away, because otherwise I think it's too tempting to sit and, wallow or worry about what's coming next. So definitely keep busy. And if it's something that can be maybe a little bit off to the side of what you have been doing, it also adds to that, the complexity of what you can do. It doesn't have to only be one thing. I never in a million years would have even thought to publish that kind of article. So that was awesome.
Oh, awesome. And it's already picked up citations. It's just remarkable. And we think it might end up being a book because it was such a long piece. I think we're thinking pretty forwardly about this, to cut it up and have another go and render it a book. Because I did think that the concept panic learning, is something really resonant there. And of course, the citations have shown we were probably right. Amazing. But Narelle, final question. What a vlog, what a story, what a woman. Now, through everything which is a lot, and everything you've been through, which is a lot, what would you say to everybody out there? There's a lot of people out there watching this, questioning in themselves, are they going to have another go? Or they're of a certain age and they're thinking, has my moment passed? What would you say to them?
Look, I don't think your moment's ever passed. It's never too late. It's really about making sure that you're setting up yourself for success. So if it fails, it fails. Doesn't mean that it's anything, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. You're a person who had a failure like everybody else in the world. So people fail all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I did sit with that for a long time and it worried me, but I have managed to learn from that everybody fails. And it's because we don't talk about it that makes having another go so much harder.
Wow.
So absolutely get your ducks in a row and have another go.
Well, that's a t-shirt. We're going to make a lot of money out of that. Get your ducks in a row and have another go.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. But I'm so moved by what you've just said there, I can hardly speak. So we don't talk about failures in life. We live in sort of an Oprah age where, and yeah, I think social media makes it worse. I think, Narelle,
we only show the good times and the fun times, and we don't talk about how hard things were. And that's actually something that's really important, that throughout the entire process of me doing my PhD, I was trying to talk to my students as well and saying, this is what I'm doing. This is really hard. This is why I won't get back to you straight away, because I'm having to work on this side project also. I'm not just the person that you see me as at work.
And the modelling, because obviously the size of biology in society, the modelling that you've provided for the students that will follow, you know, that'll take generations to wash through. That is just remarkable. Look, Narelle, you're a special human being. I didn't know a year ago, really, how important you would be in my life. You changed my life. You changed how I supervise. And, you know, astonishingly, you know, I supervised a great deal with my beloved late husband, Professor Steve Redhead, and I never thought I would supervise with Professor Jamie Quinton, a physicist and a cultural studies person. They can have a very happy marriage, but one would never think they would supervise together.
And I'm so glad they did. I am so glad they did, because you both changed my life as well. Oh, it's phenomenal.
Oh, look, and the thesis is remarkable. The publications from it are remarkable, but that's because you're remarkable. And, you know, there is no doubt in my mind that what you've talked about today, in fact, particularly the commentary about failure, let's all make a promise, all of us as a family, in 2021. Let's talk about the failures. Let's talk about the fears. Let's talk about the issues, because if we acknowledge the failures, we can be successful next time.
And we can learn from them.
And Narelle's lesson, life lesson, has changed me, and I'm sure it's changed you. So on behalf of both of us and this remarkable woman who just keeps winning awards, and we'll always remember the week before Christmas because you just kept winning awards and things have happened and it's been amazing, but you deserve every success. Wow, you do, Narelle, every success. So on behalf of a remarkable human being and her very, very grateful supervisor, we wish you love, light and peace for Christmas. And wow, let's make 2021 a good one, eh?
Merry Christmas.
Happy with it?
Perfect.
You were magnificent.
Perfection.